Not every masterpiece reveals its secrets at first glance. Some paintings invite you to admire them, others challenge you to understand them. But every so often, an artist creates an image that seems to break the rules of reality itself. Edouard Manet's A Bar at the Folies Bergère is one of those paintings. At first, it appears to show an ordinary moment inside one of Paris's most famous entertainment venues. A young barmaid stands quietly behind a marble counter, waiting for customers while a lively crowd fills the background. Everything looks believable, elegant, and perfectly composed. But the longer you look, the stranger it becomes. The reflection in the mirror doesn't seem to match what is happening in front of it. The woman appears to be standing in two different positions at the same time. A mysterious customer exists only inside the reflection, while the real space in front of her appears almost empty. Every attempt to explain the scene only creates new questions. For more than a century, historians, artists, mathematicians, and art lovers have debated what Manet was trying to accomplish. Was it a simple mistake, an impossible optical illusion, or a carefully designed puzzle that was never meant to have a single solution? The answer takes us far beyond one mysterious mirror. It leads into the final years of Manet's life, the rapidly changing streets of Paris, and a painting that quietly transformed the future of modern art. When Manet completed A Bar at the Folies Bergère in 1882, he was approaching the end of his career. Today, the painting hangs in London's Courtauld Gallery, where thousands of visitors stand before it every year, many leaving with more questions than answers. It was the last great masterpiece Manet finished before his death, almost like a final conversation between the artist and the world. By this point, his health had deteriorated severely. He had been suffering from advanced syphilis for years. The disease caused constant pain, weakness, and difficulty moving. Tasks that had once come naturally became exhausting. Painting for long hours while standing was no longer possible. Unlike many of his earlier works, much of this canvas had to be completed while seated. Yet something remarkable happened. As his physical strength declined, his artistic vision became sharper than ever. Instead of producing a simple farewell, Manet created one of the most intellectually complex paintings in Western art, a work that still challenges viewers almost a century and a half later. Every brushstroke seems deliberate. Every object appears carefully placed. And almost every detail hides another layer of meaning. Before exploring its mysteries, we first need to understand the world Manet was painting. The Folies Bergère was not just another theater. It was the beating heart of Parisian nightlife. Opened in 1869, it quickly became one of the city's most fashionable destinations. Wealthy aristocrats, businessmen, artists, tourists, performers, and ordinary workers all gathered beneath its enormous chandeliers. Inside, visitors experienced an overwhelming explosion of entertainment. Music echoed through the hall. Circus performers swung above the audience. Ballet dancers crossed brightly illuminated stages. Acrobats performed impossible feats in the air. Singers, comedians, and orchestras entertained crowds that seemed endless. One of its greatest attractions was modern electric lighting, a revolutionary technology that made the entire hall sparkle in ways older theaters never could. For many visitors, entering the Folies Bergère felt like stepping into the future. Everything shimmered. Everything moved. Everything competed for attention. It perfectly represented modern Paris, a city transforming faster than almost anywhere else in Europe. Manet spent years observing this extraordinary place. He sketched performers. He watched the crowds. He studied the interactions between workers and customers. But surprisingly, a bar at the Folies Berger was never painted inside the theater itself. Instead, Manet recreated the scene inside his own studio. He built a copy of the marble bar. He arranged bottles exactly where he wanted them. And he invited one of the Folies Berger's real barmaids to pose for him. Her name was Suzanne. She wasn't an imaginary figure. She actually worked there, serving drinks to hundreds of customers every evening. That small fact immediately changes how we view the painting. Rather than inventing a fictional character, Manet chose someone who lived this demanding routine every day. At first glance, Suzanne appears calm and composed. She stands upright behind the polished marble counter. Her uniform is elegant. Flowers decorate her clothing. Bottles of champagne, liqueur, and imported beer are neatly arranged before her. A crystal bowl overflows with bright oranges. Everything appears orderly. Yet Suzanne herself feels strangely disconnected from the lively atmosphere surrounding her. Look closely at her face. She isn't smiling. She isn't welcoming customers. She isn't even making eye contact. Instead, her eyes drift somewhere beyond the viewer, focused on a place we cannot see. She seems physically present, but emotionally absent. It is as though the endless conversations, laughter, and music have faded into distant background noise. Art historian Albert Boehm described this expression as existing between two worlds. On one side is her professional identity, the polite, attentive employee expected to serve every customer with patience. On the other is her private self, quietly lost in thoughts no one else can access. For just a brief moment, those two identities overlap. The performance slips, and we witness something deeply human. This feeling becomes even stronger when we notice what Manet deliberately chose not to paint. In 19th century Paris, respectable women rarely appeared in public without gloves. Gloves weren't simply fashionable. They represented social status, dignity, and refinement. Suzanne wears none. Her bare hands rest openly on the marble counter. To a modern viewer, this detail may seem insignificant. To people living in 1882, however, it carried unmistakable meaning. The respected art historian Griselda Pollock argues that Manet intentionally blurred the boundaries between social classes. Suzanne dresses elegantly. Her velvet bodice and delicate lace suggest sophistication. Yet she clearly doesn't belong to the wealthy elite enjoying the evening's entertainment. She occupies an uncomfortable middle ground. She serves luxury without belonging to it. She is surrounded by elegance while remaining excluded from the world she helps create. This quiet contradiction lies at the emotional center of the painting. Working as a barmaid at the Folies Berger involved far more than serving drinks. Many women employed there were believed to offer companionship and sometimes sexual services to wealthy customers after their shifts. Whether every barmaid participated hardly mattered. The reputation alone shaped how society viewed them. Art historian T.J. Clark famously argued that Suzanne exists both as a seller and as something being sold. She serves products, but she is also treated like part of the evening's entertainment. Manet never states this openly. Instead, he allows ordinary objects to hint at it. The strongest example sits directly in front of Suzanne. A bowl of oranges. To modern eyes, they seem like nothing more than decoration. Yet European artists had long used fruit as symbolic language. Throughout centuries of painting, oranges often carried associations with temptation, sensuality, and prostitution. The symbolism became even stronger because of theater culture itself. In 17th century England, women known as orange girls sold fruit inside theaters while frequently arranging meetings with wealthy patrons. By the 19th century, those associations remained widely understood. Suddenly, the bowl becomes much more than part of a still life. Placed beside expensive bottles and sparkling crystal, the oranges quietly suggest that everything on the counter, including the woman standing behind it, can be purchased. It is one of Manet's sharpest observations about modern city life. Commerce extends beyond goods. Even human relationships begin to resemble transactions. Yet remarkable as these social symbols are, they are not the reason this painting became one of the most discussed works in art history. That honor belongs to something almost everyone notices within seconds. The mirror. At first it seems completely ordinary. It reflects the crowded music hall behind Suzanne. We see glittering chandeliers, performers, audience members, smoke, conversation, movement, life. Everything appears exactly as a large mirror should reflect it, until your eyes move toward the right side of the painting. And suddenly, nothing makes sense. Suzanne's reflection no longer lines up with the woman standing before us. Instead of appearing directly behind herself, the reflected figure shifts noticeably to one side. Even stranger, a man wearing a black top hat suddenly appears beside her. He leans toward her as though speaking quietly, placing an order, or perhaps making an offer. Inside the mirror, Suzanne seems engaged in conversation. Outside the mirror, she stands perfectly still, facing us, expressionless. The two versions of the same woman seem to exist in entirely different moments. And that impossible reflection has puzzled the world ever since. When a bar at the Folies Berger was first exhibited at the Paris Salon in 1882, many critics believed they had spotted an obvious mistake. They argued that Manet simply didn't understand how mirrors worked. According to them, the barmaid's reflection should have appeared directly behind her, not shifted dramatically to the right. Even the mysterious gentleman in the top hat seemed impossible, if he truly stood where the reflection suggested W. Why couldn't we see him standing in front of the counter? Some newspapers mocked the painting. One satirical illustration even portrayed Manet as an aging artist who had become confused by basic perspective. To many viewers, the case seemed closed. The painting was beautiful, but its mirror was wrong. Only later did historians realize they had underestimated Manet. This was not an artist making careless mistakes. It was an artist asking viewers to question everything they believed they were seeing. Manet knew exactly how perspective worked. Throughout his career, he had carefully studied the masterpieces of earlier painters, especially Diego Velázquez. One painting fascinated him more than almost any other, Las Meninas. Like a bar at the Folies Berger, Velázquez's masterpiece uses a mirror to challenge our understanding of space. The viewer is never completely certain where they are standing. Reality and reflection begin to merge. Manet admired this visual complexity and pushed it even further. Rather than creating a mirror that simply copied reality, he built one that forced the viewer to participate in the illusion. For decades, however, no one could fully explain how. Then, in the year 2000, art historian Malcolm Park attempted something unusual. Instead of debating the painting through theory alone, he reconstructed the scene using real people, a replica bar, and a camera. His goal was simple. Could the impossible reflection actually exist in the real world? The answer surprised almost everyone. Yes, but only from one very specific viewpoint. Park demonstrated that if the observer stands slightly to the right instead of directly in front of the painting, the unusual reflection becomes geometrically possible. The mirror isn't random. It isn't painted incorrectly. It follows its own carefully planned logic. The mysterious customer would actually be standing just outside the visible edge of the canvas, close enough to appear in the reflection, but positioned where we cannot see him directly. Suddenly, the painting transforms. What once looked like an error becomes an extraordinary manipulation of perspective. Yet even this explanation doesn't solve everything. Because geometry answers only one mystery. The emotional mystery remains. Look again at Suzanne. Inside the mirror, she leans slightly toward the customer. She appears engaged, almost attentive. But the woman standing before us tells a completely different story. She remains still, silent, emotionally distant. It feels as though two different versions of the same person exist simultaneously. One performs her job. The other quietly withdraws into herself. Perhaps this contradiction is exactly what Manet wanted us to notice. Every day, Suzanne served hundreds of strangers. She smiled. She listened. She sold drinks. She repeated the same conversations over and over again. Yet beneath those routine exchanges existed another person, a private individual whose thoughts remained inaccessible to everyone around her. The mirror separates these two realities. Public appearance, private experience, both occupy the same body, yet they never fully meet. Even the smallest details reinforce this idea. High above the crowd hangs a pair of green boots. Many visitors overlook them entirely. They belong to a trapeze artist swinging through the theater's ceiling. Most historians believe she represents the famous American performer Leona Dare, who amazed Parisian audiences with daring aerial performances. Her presence creates a striking contrast. She moves freely through the air. Suzanne cannot leave the marble counter. One woman enjoys motion. The other remains trapped by routine. Without saying a single word, Manet contrasts freedom with confinement. The bottles arranged across the counter tell another story. Among them is a bottle of Bass Pale Ale, easily recognized by its distinctive red triangle label. Today, it seems like an ordinary imported beer. But in 1882, its presence carried political meaning. France still remembered the humiliation of its defeat in the Franco-Prussian War only a decade earlier. Public hostility toward Germany remained intense. By prominently displaying British products while excluding German ones, Manet quietly echoed the patriotic feelings many Parisians still shared. Even a bottle of beer became part of the painting's hidden language. The roses beside Suzanne appear delicate and decorative, yet they too carry deeper meaning. For centuries, flowers and mirrors appeared together in European painting as symbols of mortality. Beautiful things fade. Youth disappears. Life itself is temporary. Artists referred to this tradition as vanitas, paintings reminding viewers that every worldly pleasure eventually comes to an end. By the time Manet painted this masterpiece, he already knew his own health was failing. The disease that had haunted him for years was becoming impossible to ignore. Knowing this, the flowers feel almost personal. The dazzling HTS, the crowded theater, the laughter, the performances. Everything inside the Folies Bergère sparkles with life. Yet beneath that brilliance lies a quiet awareness that none of it will last forever. Less than a year after completing the painting, Manet died. In many ways, this became his farewell to modern Paris. But perhaps the greatest mystery isn't the mirror at all. Perhaps it's us. Think about where the unseen customer must be standing. If Malcolm Park's reconstruction is correct, that position almost overlaps with the viewer's own. In other words, we are standing exactly where the customer would have stood. Without realizing it, we become part of the painting. Suzanne isn't looking into empty space. She is looking toward us, not at us as individuals, but at us as just another customer, another stranger, another anonymous face passing through the endless flow of the city. That realization changes everything. We are no longer observers. We have entered the scene itself. This idea perfectly reflects life in 19th century Paris. The city was expanding rapidly. Wide boulevards filled with strangers. Railway stations connected thousands of travelers every day. Department stores displayed endless rows of luxury goods. Cafes and theaters became places where people gathered in enormous numbers. Yet despite constant crowds, loneliness remained everywhere. People stood shoulder to shoulder without truly knowing one another. Modern life created connection and isolation at exactly the same time. Suzanne embodies that contradiction. She is surrounded by people, yet she seems profoundly alone. The busiest place in Paris somehow becomes one of its loneliest. The painting also refuses to belong to a single artistic category. It is a portrait, a still life, a social documentary, a psychological study, and an optical illusion all at once. Academic painters traditionally kept these genres separate. Manet ignored those rules completely. The carefully arranged bottles record everyday Parisian life. The fruit carries symbolic meaning. The mirror questions perception itself. The portrait reveals emotion while refusing to explain it. Every element performs multiple roles simultaneously. That complexity helped redefine what modern painting could become. Even Manet's brushwork reflects this new direction. Unlike many academic painters, he never tried to hide the paint. Stand close to the canvas and individual brushstrokes remain visible. Glass sparkles through quick strokes of white and pale blue. Velvet appears through broad patches of dark color. Objects seem unfinished up close. But step back, everything suddenly comes together. The illusion exists. Yet the painting never lets us forget that it is made entirely of paint applied by a human hand. Reality and artifice exist side by side, just like the mirror itself. Over the last century, historians have proposed countless interpretations. Some believe the painting is primarily about optics. Others see it as a criticism of capitalism. Some focus on class, gender, and the commercialization of women. Others view it as an exploration of memory, perception, or modern psychology. Remarkably, none of these explanations completely replaces the others. The painting seems designed to support several truths at once. Every answer reveals another mystery. Every solution opens another question. And perhaps that is exactly why it continues to fascinate audiences today. Modern life isn't very different. We constantly move through worlds filled with reflections, carefully constructed images, public identities, and private realities. People present polished versions of themselves while hiding emotions no one else can see. Crowded spaces often create unexpected loneliness. Appearances promise certainty. Reality quietly slips away. More than 140 years after it was painted, a bar at the Foley's Berger still feels remarkably contemporary because it captures something timeless about the human experience. Not simply how we see the world, but how easily the world can deceive us. In the end, Manet never asks us to solve his painting. He asks us to experience it. The impossible mirror was never just a technical puzzle. It was a way of reminding us that reality is rarely as simple as it first appears. Every reflection hides another perspective. Every face conceals another story. And every crowded room contains someone standing quietly alone. Perhaps that is why this final masterpiece continues to captivate viewers generation after generation. Not because it gives us answers, but because it leaves us with better questions. If you enjoyed this exploration into one of art history's greatest mysteries, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves art, history, and hidden symbolism. And now I'd like to hear your opinion. Do you believe Manet intentionally created an unsolvable visual puzzle? Or do you think the painting still holds one final secret waiting to be discovered? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.